Welcome, everybody. I'm Paula Bartholomew, and I'm just delighted that you've joined me for Hawthorn University's All About Alumni series. This is where we get to hear directly from our graduates about the exciting things they're doing professionally. And today we're going to meet with Danielle Cook. Danielle graduated from Hawthorn's Master's in Holistic Nutrition program in January 2014, summa cum laude, and on the president's list. So I asked Danielle to talk with us today about her Happily Hungry Pediatric Cancer Program and really everything she's been doing post-graduation. So hello, Danielle, and welcome.
Hi, thank you, Paula.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be here together.
Well, I'm delighted to be here. It's a pleasure to be here.
And it's my pleasure to introduce you, so let's get that started. Got some good things to say about you. Danielle Cook's an educator, a presenter, an author, and a pioneer of outstanding health programs. And after her son's cancer diagnosis at age 12, she launched herself into understanding better which foods might help him during treatment and then as a cancer survivor for life beyond. She's the founder and the director of Happily Hungry. It's a nutrition program for children affected by cancer and chronic illness. And at MedStar Georgetown University Hospital and Georgetown Pediatric Hematology Oncology Clinic, Danielle counsels young cancer patients and adolescent cancer survivors, as well as their parents and caregivers on proper nutrition, and she conducts interactive cooking demonstrations with the patients' families. And in 2015, she began her program at the Children's Inn at the National Institute of Health in Bethesda, Maryland, and in May 2016, the program launched at Sinai Baltimore Children's Hospital in Baltimore. In addition, she gives regular presentations and cooking demonstrations for other venues. Her first book, Happily Hungry, Smart Recipes for Kids with Cancer, was released in September 2012. And Danielle has appeared on The Today Show, on CNN with Sanjay Gupta, on Nation Swell, France 24 News Network, on WTOP Radio, and NPR in Boston. She obtained her bachelor's degree from Clark University and completed her master's of science in holistic nutrition at Hawthorn University and lives in Washington, D.C. So thanks for being here, Danielle. I'm really excited and delighted to talk with you today and for everyone to learn more about your post-grad experiences, really especially about the Happily Hungry program. So I think, why don't you start by giving us an overview and share the story with your son and how you got to where you are today giving this presentation.
Thank you. Thank you. I really wanted to share with you today how the chaotic time during my son's treatment for cancer. He was treated for a stage 3 lymphoma, Hodgkin's lymphoma. And from that emerged an opportunity that really was not immediately evident to me. I had spent months trying to figure out what foods would be suitable for him during the treatment. Sometimes he couldn't eat for various side effects. Sometimes, other times he just rebuked the favorite foods, and that was a mystery to me, why he just couldn't tolerate, couldn't stand the look of it, couldn't stand the taste of it. And then there were other times that he just wasn't able to tolerate anything at all. And that led to an even greater challenge for him once the treatment was over, because he was really left almost more sick after treatment than he was upon diagnosis. So it took part of 2 years. It was more than a year after his treatment was completed that I really worked to help him rebuild his health through food. And it became clear to me that many families who are dealing with their child's cancer diagnosis struggle with exactly these issues.
Mm-hmm.
And there became a real compulsion for me that I really needed to do something to help others in that situation. So along those veins, I realized I also needed to get a much better understanding of the science behind foods, and I needed to go back to school. And so I enrolled at Hawthorn, and as I was doing my studies, I also began creating a nutrition program that really answered the questions that I'd had during my son's illness. So I'm going to cover how this program has evolved and how I've managed to juggle a lot of other work opportunities outside of a hospital venue. But that ultimately led to also reprioritizing some commitments in order to really remain true and true to my program and to really maintain the standards that I'd set for it.
Wow, it's it's a powerful story that's led you on a very powerful journey, and I'm happy for you to be sharing more of it here today, Danielle. And so why don't you tell us a little bit more about this group of children that you work with, and in terms of overall numbers, and how you decided you wanted to create a nutrition program for that specific group.
Right. Well, the numbers are, we're looking at somewhere between 12 and 15,000 children under the age of 20 that are diagnosed in the United States every year. That also translates as about 1 in 300. That also means it's about one very large classroom of children every day. And so we've seen over time what progress has done in terms of the amount of in terms of the treatment for these cancers. These are kids who are affected by specifically mostly by leukemias, lymphomas, neuroblastomas, osteosarcomas. We don't see a lot of cancers of, for instance, pancreatic cancer or liver cancers. Not even a lot of breast cancer in young children. Those are cancers that generally are going to be found more in the adult population. And yet, even though that we're talking 12 to 15,000 a year, because the treatments have so improved in the last 10, 15 years, the survivor rates for these kids has gotten really much, much better. So in the case of my son's Hodgkin's lymphoma, for instance, he was in that 85 to 90% of complete potential of a complete cure. And so what this means is that we have now a growing pool of cancer of adults and young adults in this country who are survivors of childhood cancers. And so the statistics range between 270, around 270, 400,000 and rising. That's a pretty big sprawl, and the reason for that is that depending on which studies you're reading from, they use the cutoff of a childhood cancer survivor cutoff might be, in some studies they're looking at kids that were 20 and under or 21 and under upon diagnosis. So it's a growing group, and one that I am really very interested and concerned about because their needs are different as young survivors, and that's something that I'm also looking at as I grow my program. So these are not, at least those who are actually diagnosed are not, it's not a huge number. And as a matter of fact, I was told a few years ago by a senior vice president that I had reached out to for advice. She was a senior VP of United Health Group, which is a very large medical healthcare group. And she basically said that I had a poor business model because I didn't have enough sick kids to work with, really. She said, if you're trying to build a business and you're only looking at between 12 and 15,000, I mean, to me, that's, I guess the good news is that that group isn't larger than it is. But he said, that's really not particularly a good business model. And she also said that because I was reliant on grants or foundation donations to do my work, that was really no way to run your own business either. So I figured at the time that I think she just didn't quite get where I was coming from. But the takeaway for me was that you have to be open to hearing all perspectives, even if she felt that this was a poor business model.
Wow. Kind of a shocking piece of the story here in terms of statistics. I mean, yes, 12 to 15,000 children. as compared to other numbers of cancers that are coming about each year in all age populations. It's still 12 to 15,000 children that I wish didn't get cancer and that desperately need help. So I'm
Absolutely.
thrilled that you were open to hearing what she had to say, but said, no, this needs my attention.
Absolutely. And as I have mentioned, that growing group of cancer survivors is going to only get bigger, and you know, they 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 are entitled to living really as normal as possible, healthy lives, having had this experience. So that's another population group for me that I'm really interested in.
Good, I'm glad. Well, I'm appreciative that you gave an overview of this special group of people and how you decided you really wanted to stick with it and affect positive change for them and their families. So how did things actually get started from there? And did you have other commitments going on at the same time that you began Happily Hungry?
Yeah, well, I would say, once I kind of emerged emerged from the dust after a year of the better part of a year of treatment, and then a good couple of years, year and a half of really trying to see my little cancer kid get strong and rebuild himself. Um, I realized that, I had identified a need that was really personally meaningful to me. And that need was that I felt very strongly that I could make a difference by creating a program for pediatric oncology at the hospital where my son was treated. And I went to them and said, you know, you need a program that addresses this nutrition component, this whole food piece for these kids and these families while they're in treatment. And I want to do something. I want to be the one to provide that solution. So I think that starting with something personally meaningful really helps you stay motivated and makes you very clear about why you're doing this. Um, but you need to be honest with yourself. If you've got this problem you've identified, it's really meaningful to you, and you want to provide a solution. Do you know what that solution is? And are you the right person to do this? Are you experienced enough? Are you knowledgeable enough? What would you need to do to be that person to be able to make this happen? And talk to other people that are out there. I talked to a lot of families. I had access, of course, to a lot of families that were going through this, and I would ask them, is this something do you think this would be an important piece? And over, I was just kept getting affirmation. So I found for myself that one of the key points here for me in order to take this leap of faith and really make this a very effective program was the education piece. I felt very, very comfortable in the culinary world, in the kitchen, really had a good grasp on what kinds of foods I like to cook, and I consider myself like a global cook. I mean, I'm not a actual chef, but I have been very, very comfortable in the kitchen since a very young age. But the one area that I knew that I really needed to bone up on was the science behind the foods. And so when I found the Hawthorn program, I was just over the moon happy because it really answered the outline of the program and everything that I then launched into it, answered all of the pieces, all the components that I was really needing to have answered. And so I think it's important that you do look at what you need, where are the gaps and where are the shortcomings, and how can you to really be very effective to those you're looking to change. So at the time the Happily Hungry program started, I was doing work as I was doing cooking demonstrations at other venues as well. I was working at botanic gardens, primarily. I was a stay-at-home mom with 3 kids, so there's really no such thing as a full stay-at-home mom, I think. But so I was doing a bit of part-time work, and of course, then after this cancer diagnosis happened, I really had to. This was all part of the regrouping. I went back to school. I created the program initially as a volunteer. I just did this for free, 1 day a month. I wanted to work on my master's. I was doing these other cooking demos, and then I had this idea that the hospital really needed a recipe book. And so here I was, literally with probably 5 or 6 different directions in any given week, plus still having children at home and rearing them. And I was pretty splayed in different directions. But I also thought it was important for me not to really say no to any kind of potential work or opportunity that came my way that related to this whole nutrition thing. So I just kept going along with these things in different directions. One of the things that I was constantly asking myself is, what really is my business model? What am I doing? And so at some point along the way, it became clear I needed to kind of get more of a structure to things, and I needed a logo, and I needed a website. And so the pomegranate that you see on your screen here was my very first logo, and that I actually bartered. And I think that's a really good way when you're getting going. Bartering for services is a win-win situation. So I gave, in exchange for this really nice logo, I gave cooking classes to my graphic designer. And we just figured out approximately how many hours each of us was going to invest in this, and we traded talents. And that's a really good way when you don't have the resources to go out of pocket. That's a really nice way of getting what you need. And then the website came along, and that has gone, as many people I've heard when they're launching their own business, that has sort of morphed into a couple of different things. It's because as you evolve and you can really streamline what it is you're going to be needing to do, that things change. But then the other piece of it was I realized I really needed to make things even more legal and more legitimate. And that in part was because I was dealing in food. I was doing these cooking demonstrations in different venues, and I had started really creating this program in a hospital environment, and I was concerned for the liability issues. So I created a liability company, and that I called Pomegranate Plus LLC, and I still use that as the umbrella for my programs. And that was just from a legal perspective a smart move to get yourself one step behind the liability.
Danielle, did you have legal advice for that, or something that in your own research that you determined that a limited liability company would be best suited for you?
I did. So here's the other good tip out there is I reached out to, I'm in the Washington, D.C. area. I reached out through, again, just talking with other people that I knew. I reached out to the Maryland University Law School, and they have a center that where they offer free legal advice from the students. There's a pool of students that become your advisor, but it's overseen, the program and all legal advice is overseen by actual professors who are, they're bar, they've passed the bar, they're actual attorneys within the state. So you're getting real advice and real guidance from real lawyers and students, but we've all gone through that too, and we're doing that through Hawthorn. And it's a wonderful, wonderful resource, and many of the law schools across the country you'd have to look into it a little bit, but many of them offer these centers, and you go and you basically show what you talk to them about what you're doing, and they'll tell you whether or not they feel that you're on solid enough ground that they want to take you on. And it's excellent practice for the attorneys, the student attorneys, and you get out of it what you need. So that's how we registered the LLC.
I love it. I love how resourceful you've been here and getting your needs met with little money.
Yes, that's the name of the game.
So it sounds like you've got a lot of moving parts going on at this point, and it might help if you talk about how you prioritize that, and as well, I'd like you to certainly share more about how the nutrition program's developed since its inception in 2010.
Oh yeah. Okay. So I will say that writing the book, the Happily Hungry recipe book, was a really good move. I did this, again, coming back to the personally meaningful piece. I did this book because I knew there was such a need, and I wanted to write a book. And I was fortunate in that the hospital was raised private donations to get it printed.
Wow.
And this was not a book that I'm making money off of. This is a book that I essentially gifted to the hospital as a thank you for all the incredible medical work they did in making my son a healthy young man.
Wow.
But that said, this little book ended up growing pretty good legs of its own, as they say. And so it opened doors for me in ways that I really had not imagined. In the press coverage, it brought on some wonderful press coverage. That in part of because I had connections as well, but not entirely. It just, once it got out there, there was just a lot of chatter about it, and so that allowed me also to take on some presentations, to speak at conferences, to speak at webinars, to set up workshops for parents, a number of things that really what that all kind of comes together in terms of letting people know that you exist and getting the word out. Having a book certainly goes a long way to giving yourself credence, and in addition to bringing on there's some press and media attention, but it also has helped me really be able to value my worth. So one of the things as the program launched more steadily, it went from this volunteer thing to actually getting a grant writing. So that grant lasted 2 years and sustained things for 2 years, and then that has also now it's been maintained by other foundation donations, and also sustained by book sales. And so one of the pieces of the program we did was to learn from our participants. So we created surveys on what they liked about the program and what they would like to see done differently and other ideas. And so that's also been very, very helpful to really see what's working and to create a more effective program. When I moved out of Georgetown, I mean, I'm still there, but when I spread my wings a bit, I moved to the program to the National Institutes of Health. There is a lovely lodge on their campus called the Children's Inn, where families stay when they're being treated at NIH. And so that's a different kind of culture. Each one of these locations has their own, what I like to call, culture. NIH has an on-site kitchen, whereas at Georgetown and at Sinai in Baltimore, we have literally a mobile kitchen that is set up on a cart, and I pull the equipment that I need for that day. So one of the things to keep in mind is you really need to figure out who your audience is, and how this looks when you move into other venues, and what their needs are. I also went through a whole revamping of my logo, and you can see on the screen here what the Happily Hungry program now has, this cute little logo with a tagline, and the tagline is "Bellies Full of Healing," which I really liked. And that actually, I did pay a graphic designer at the second rendition. I was able to pay a graphic designer to come up with that. And this is all reflective, that logo, the colors and all that is reflective of my new website, thehappilyhungry.com. But, the streamlining, it really helps you to do away with the things that aren't working as well and drop anything that's extraneous. And so I did end up saying no to some of these presentations because they weren't paying, or they weren't as integrated into where my heart really was in terms of the Happily Hungry program. So, I'm moving things in a new direction in that regard. And I would say that just the combination of all of these things, of being able to get out there, really being able to streamline, being able to really get a good idea of where you're moving things and what the client's needs are going to be. It all comes back around to for each of us to really better understand what we're worth. And I think for me, that is one of the hardest questions. If you can start by building a name for yourself, you're gonna have a much better grasp on what it is that you're worth. So let me just talk for a second, a couple minutes here, about the program and what's working with the program. The program has really evolved over time, as I mentioned, and gone from just a volunteer carrying her blender and her ingredients into something that is really a weekly appearance at 2 of the hospitals, a monthly appearance at the 3rd hospital, but that's probably going to change in the next year or so. I imagine I'm going to start being at NIH more frequently as well. But these are my pearls of wisdom for the day here. These are the cornerstones of what I think has made this program so successful. So we've got these different components that all I found have worked. So I'm working with ingredients that are not only seasonal but local as often as I can, that are accessible, that are affordable. And then because I'm working with kids, you need to look at textures of foods and colors of foods, and creating recipes that are not only nutrient dense but that are appealing to children and that are easy to follow and uncomplicated. And ideally, these are going to be recipes that satisfy the whole family. The other component is that people like to take things home. They like the educational materials. When these families are in the hospital situation and they're in crisis, a lot of them have no time and they're so overwhelmed that cooking is not really going to happen right now. So if you can hand them educational materials and copies of recipes, they might not be able to cook, but they will certainly turn things over to a caregiver or another family member or somebody who can do the cooking. So this is a program that essentially has just answered the things the questions I had when we were going through our treatment, and it's really come from firsthand experience of seeing the need for support and guidance with regard to nutrition that we experienced during my son's illness.
Wow. At this point in the presentation, Danielle, have you already graduated at this point in the development of your program?
Yes. I graduated. I actually completed things in 2013, and the program had undergone this sort of amping up, I
Hmm.
guess, for lack of a better term. My presentations were more frequent. Um, I um, I had the book was out and doing well, um, and yeah, I had my master's under my belt, and that was a huge component to just really being able to speak very knowledgeably to the science behind the foods, and that the master's, the Hawthorn was really a very, very good move on my part, and wonderful program that really filled, as I've said earlier, but it really filled all the void of what I needed in terms of the education piece. And it gave me a lot of confidence.
Well, you had really clear focus coming in. Do you feel like Hawthorne supported your vision and your goals as you went through school?
Oh, most definitely. I bounced a lot of my ideas off of the people at Hawthorne, other students as well, but certainly Paula, you and I have had a number of conversations about my work over the time, and
Right.
everybody has been so excited and so supportive. And I've perhaps been at an advantage in that, being the mother of a cancer survivor, I can really I can really explain why the nutrition piece is so important, and getting the buy-in for for a medical facility or wherever it is that you're thinking about doing your work. Getting buy-in is really very important, a very important component to having the success. But certainly the Hawthorne piece and all the support there was terrific, has been terrific.
Well, it seems like, having a master's is really been helpful and has opened a number of doors for you. And I just want to reflect that, I think that you were very generous talking about your recipe book and saying that you offered it back as in gratitude for them making your son a healthy young man. And I I want to reframe that a little bit because I think they were very successful in eradicating the cancer, but that it was you that made him a healthy young man again. He was very desperate when he got through his treatment, right? I mean, he was very depleted. And this is the case that many people find themselves in during and post-treatment, right?
Well, absolutely. As they say, the job of the treatment was to eradicate the cancer, but he still needed to get his life back.
Right.
And that was a very long process for us. It was really a journey, and it was something that oncologists and gastroenterologists and other physicians, they don't tell you about that. I really had to figure that out on my own, and it was really, it's been quite a journey to get there. But I when I started this, I was thinking, I had a conversation with Rebecca Katz, which many of you hopefully know the name. She's a fabulous uh, woman doing incredible work, also in the cancer world, but beyond. She's released several terrific cookbooks, and she's a graduate of Hawthorne as
Okay.
well. And when we were talking one time several years ago, I sort of said, here I am trying to get this program up and going, and I feel like, I'm just a mom of three kids, who's one of them who happened to have the bad luck of getting a cancer, and I'm trying to turn this into something positive, the lemons to lemonade. And she said to me, stop talking like that.
Right.
She said, you are the expert. You are now the expert in this field. And so I really, and that really stuck with me. And I just want to say to those of you listening, if you're in the process of working on your master's at Hawthorne, or back at school, or considering any of that, and I know a lot of the people who are naturally gravitate seemingly to the nutrition world are a lot of women, but um, you know, you need to, now is the time to seize on this. You can really put yourself out there, not only as a person who's really going to make a difference in terms of what it is that you can bring to the table, but you're a change maker. You know, we are all doing this because what we want is to see people feel better and make better food choices and limit the amount of illness and or reverse chronic conditions. So you're getting those who are studying at Hawthorn that are hearing this, you're getting an amazing education. So embrace that and use that, and remember, you are now going to be the expert at whatever it is you choose to do.
It's a great piece of advice from Rebecca Katz to help you recognize that you're an expert, because here you are in this situation looking around and saying there's a huge need here and oh my gosh, nobody else is doing it, and yet you didn't recognize that you were the expert yet. And both you and Rebecca Katz, for your thesis, you worked on your first books. And came up with your proposal and exited with books in hand. So it's a fantastic accomplishment, both as graduates, but in your respective fields. So I'm just thrilled. We've got a few minutes left here, Danielle. I wonder if you have anything that you want to share about having other advice for other people starting a program, especially in an established facility like you did in the medical field.
Yeah, I think probably I do get that question every now and again about how did you do this? And really, you've got to find in the case of the medical field, I found the buy-in from the oncologists, from social workers, that they saw the value and the need for a program like this. So depending on what field you're in, or where you're going with this, you've got to figure out who are the decision makers, who are the people who are going to say, yes, this is a good idea, we want you to do this. So you've got to find where the buy-in is coming from and who are the decision makers. It also really, really helps to have some actual studies on hand that you can refer to or reference, or articles, research. In the case of the medical field, they're very, very heavy on the evidence-based support. So that really will go a long way to helping you build your case for a program. And then I can't stress enough about talking to people in the industry. That helps you to brainstorm. So people who are already in the field that you're looking to get involved in, look for people who are more open-minded and progressive in their thinking, because an integrative nutrition program like the one I'm doing, this is a completely new thing for these hospitals. Nothing like this has been done before, and so you want to appeal to the people who are going to be a little bit more open-minded, like-minded. So yeah, those are the different components. You need to have some kind of scientific backup, most probably, to support the work that you're doing. And there's plenty of articles and support in that regard out there. Certainly through Hawthorn's library too. Don't forget that.
Don't forget that. EBSCO is a growing feature here too. Thank you so much for this, Danielle. Is there any final thoughts that you want to share? Any other, you've shared so much of your accomplishments already, but is there anything else that you're doing in addition to this program that really stands out that you'd like to address?
Well, I'm excited that the Sinai program at Sinai Baltimore is now expanding, in that I am not only in the pediatric oncology clinic, but I've moved to spending 1 day a week in their general pediatrics, 1 day in their endocrinology and gastroenterology. So this is clearly a program that is moving beyond pediatric oncology, and right. I'd love to see it go from one medical facility to the next across the country. I know that sounds like a tall order, but it's possible. Anything's possible, and I'm just going to keep pushing it along and see how we grow.
Yeah, cancer's not limited to Baltimore and Washington, so You're needed everywhere, and everybody that goes through cancer treatment needs this post-treatment support and during treatment support. So you've got a lot to work to do. You're going to need help soon.
I think I might.
Yeah. I heard an ambulance. I think you're giving this presentation from Georgetown Hospital, aren't you?
I'm actually up in Baltimore today. Yes, you did hear an ambulance. It must have pulled in from somewhere outside the building. I'm on their inpatient floor on the third floor in this absolutely lovely, lovely playroom area that they have closed off and let me talk to you all. And I'm very grateful. They're so thrilled with the program that I've got, and they've been so supportive as well. And I said I need to just get a quiet place, and they gave me this lovely space, and so it's my pleasure to have spent a few minutes with everybody today. And if any of you want to reach out to me and have other questions, I can be reached through the website, and I can be reached at Danielle@happily.hungry.com as well.
All right, thank you so much, Danielle. This has been really inspiring. I appreciate it so much. And just in closing, I want to say I hope you all help me spread the word. We've got another All About Alumni coming up next month on September 7th, and Tracy Fox is going to be with us. She's also a graduate of our Master of Science in Holistic Nutrition program, and she's going to be talking about what she's been doing post-graduation, working with medical doctors. It's another really good story. She's doing amazing work in the medical field, making huge inroads here. So I hope you'll come back to me and meet us again on September 7th at 12 noon. It'll be a good presentation. I sure look forward to sharing it with you all. This one was recorded. It'll be up on our archived webinars from our website in a few days, so you can check that out and the other featured stories of our previous graduates up there. So I'll meet you back here September 7th, and until then, I wish you all the best of health and hope you take good care. Thanks again, Danielle.
Thank you. Bye-bye.